The rain came down in sheets that November night, turning the alley behind Harbor Street shelter into a river of oil and neon. Iris Chen stood in the doorway with a thermal blanket and a flashlight, scanning the darkness for movement. She had heard crying 20 minutes ago. Soft, female, desperate, the kind of sound that cut through the usual city noise and burrowed into your chest. "Margaret, I'm going to check the East Alley." Iris called back into the warmth of the intake area. Margaret Hayes, the shelter director, looked up from the intake desk with worried eyes that had seen too many nights like this. "Take your phone. Don't go far. And Iris, be careful." Iris nodded and stepped into the cold. Water soaked through her canvas shoes within seconds, the chill creeping up through her socks. The beam of her flashlight cut through rain and shadow, illuminating dumpsters overflowing with trash. Cardboard shelters dissolving in the wet, a shopping cart filled with someone's entire life, and finally, a figure curled against a brick wall, small and broken. The woman was young, maybe 25, maybe younger. Her designer coat was filthy, torn at the shoulder, the label still visible, something expensive that Iris couldn't afford on 3 months' salary. Her feet were bare and bleeding, cut open on broken glass and rough pavement. She shook violently, arms wrapped around her knees, eyes vacant and staring at nothing. Iris approached slowly, making her movements visible and non-threatening. She crouched down several feet away, making herself smaller, less intimidating. "Hey, I'm Iris. I work at the shelter right there, just behind us. You're safe now. Can you hear me?" The woman's lips moved, but no sound came out. Her pupils were dilated, black swallowing brown. Track marks lined her inner arms, some old and scarred, some fresh and angry. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. "I'm going to put this blanket around you, okay? Just to keep you warm. I won't hurt you." Iris wrapped the thermal fabric around shaking shoulders and gently guided the woman to her feet. She weighed almost nothing, all bone and hollow spaces. Her skin was ice cold to the touch, lips tinged blue. Iris supported most of her weight as they stumbled toward the shelter entrance, the woman's bare feet dragging across wet concrete. Inside the shelter, fluorescent lights revealed the full extent of the damage. The woman's face was bruised, fresh bruises layered over old ones in a palette of purple, yellow, and green. Her hair, once professionally styled and highlighted, was matted with mud and something darker. But beneath the grime and trauma, Iris recognized quality. Bone structure that spoke of good genetics, skin that had once known expensive products, dental work that cost thousands. This woman had known wealth, had lived in a different world entirely. "Let's get you warm," Iris said gently, her voice soft and steady as she led the woman toward the shower facilities. Margaret appeared with an armful of towels and clean clothes, her practiced efficiency masking deep concern. "I'll call Dr. Park. She's on call tonight." "Thank you, Margaret." An hour later, the woman sat wrapped in blankets in the quiet room, hands trembling around a cup of chamomile tea that Iris had sweetened with honey. Dr. Elena Park had examined her, treated her wounds with careful hands, documented the injuries with clinical precision, and recommended detox monitoring and psychological evaluation. The woman had submitted to all of it with blank compliance, as if her body belonged to someone else. "What's your name?" Iris asked softly, sitting across from her with her own cup of tea. The woman stared into her cup for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was a whisper, rusty from disuse. "Sofia." "Just Sofia." A small nod, barely perceptible. "That's okay. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. You're safe here, Sofia. No one can hurt you here." Sofia's eyes filled with tears that spilled over and ran down her clean cheeks. "I can't go back. I can't. Please don't make me go back." "You don't have to go anywhere. This is your choice. You're in control now." "You don't understand. He'll find me. He always finds me. No matter where I go, no matter how far I run." Iris had heard this before. Abusive partners who stalked, traffickers who claimed ownership, Pimps who believed their victims were property. The fear was always the same, deep and paralyzing. We have security here, locked doors at night, a legal advocate who can help with restraining orders. We have resources, Sofia. Sofia laughed bitterly, a sound without humor. Restraining orders don't work on men like my brother. The word hung in the air. Brother. Not boyfriend, not pimp. Brother. Your brother did this to you? No. Yes. It's complicated. Sofia's hand shook harder, tea sloshing in the cup. I did this. I chose this. I ran from him, and I made so many mistakes. So many terrible, stupid mistakes. Iris set down her own cup and moved closer, sitting beside Sofia on the worn couch. Sofia, whatever happened, you deserve safety. You deserve help. You deserve a chance to heal. You really believe that? It wasn't a question. Sofia studied Iris's face with something like wonder. I do. Absolutely. You think everyone can be saved? I think everyone deserves the chance to try. Sofia studied Iris's face, the genuine warmth in her dark eyes, the stubborn hope that radiated from her like heat. You're going to get hurt with that attitude. Men like my brother destroy people like you. Maybe, but I'd rather believe in people than give up on them. I'd rather try and fail than never try at all. Sofia closed her eyes, tears still falling. I wish I could believe like you do. You can. It just takes time. If this story has pulled you in, you're in the right place. 3 days passed in careful routine. Sofia stayed in the shelter, sleeping 18 hours at a time, her body trying to recover from months of abuse. She ate small meals that Iris brought to her, picking at food with little appetite. She avoided conversation with other residents, keeping to herself in the corner of the common room. Iris checked on her regularly, never pushing, never demanding, just present and steady. On the 4th morning, Iris was organizing donation boxes in the storage room when Margaret rushed in, her face drained of color and her hands shaking. There's a man here. Multiple men, actually. Black cars, suits. They're asking for Sofia. One of them showed me a picture. Iris's stomach dropped, adrenaline flooding her system. Did you confirm she's here? I said I couldn't disclose resident information. One of them said they'd wait outside. Iris, they don't look like they're going anywhere. Iris walked to the front window and looked out through the glass. 3 black SUVs were parked along the curb, expensive and gleaming despite the overcast sky. Men in tailored coats stood beside them, eyes scanning the building with professional efficiency. And leaning against the center vehicle, arms crossed over his chest, was a man who radiated authority like heat radiates from fire. Dante Morelli. Iris didn't know his name yet, but she recognized power when she saw it. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, dark-haired with Mediterranean features that spoke of Italian heritage. He had a stillness about him that suggested absolute control, the kind of calm that comes from knowing you're the most dangerous person in any room. Even from a distance, she could see the ink on his hands, tattoos that disappeared beneath his cuffs, marking him as someone who lived outside conventional society. She pushed through the shelter door and walked toward him, her heart pounding, but her steps steady. She'd dealt with angry family members before, with violent ex-partners, with people who thought they owned other people. She knew how to stand her ground. His eyes locked onto her immediately, cold, assessing, calculating her threat level in seconds. This is private property, Iris said firmly, stopping 10 feet away. You need to leave. Dante's expression didn't change. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet and controlled. I'm looking for my sister. We don't disclose resident information to anyone. Privacy laws. I'm not asking for a resident list. I'm telling you my sister is inside that building, and I'm taking her home where she belongs. If someone is here voluntarily, they're under no obligation to leave with anyone. That includes family. A muscle twitched in Dante's jaw, the first sign of emotion breaking through his control. You have no idea who you're dealing with, do you? I don't need to. The law is the law. It protects everyone equally. One of the men beside Dante shifted forward, hand moving inside his coat, but Dante raised a hand. A small gesture. That froze everyone in place. The control he exercised was absolute. The law, Dante repeated, his voice soft and dangerous. You think the law protects people like Sofia? You think pieces of paper stop the kind of people she's been running with? I think Sofia has the right to choose her own path. That's what freedom means. Her path led her to an alley, half dead from an overdose, feet bleeding, barely conscious. You think that's freedom? You think that's a good choice? Iris held his gaze, refusing to be intimidated. I think taking away someone's agency isn't protection. It's control. There's a difference. Dante stepped closer, invading her space deliberately. He smelled like expensive cologne and rain, like money and danger. Let me guess. You believe in rehabilitation, second chances, the inherent goodness of humanity. You think everyone can change if given the right support. Yes, I do. How noble. His tone was mocking, cruel. How does it feel, operating in a fantasy world? Does it help you sleep at night, pretending your kindness makes a difference? How does it feel, using fear to manage people you claim to love? Does that help you sleep? The air went still. Dante's men tensed visibly, hands moving toward weapons. But Dante himself smiled, a cold, humorless expression that didn't reach his eyes. You've got courage, I'll give you that. Stupidity, too, but courage. Most people don't talk to me like that and walk away. Is that a threat? It's an observation. Sofia doesn't want to see you. You asked her? Had a conversation about it? I don't have to ask. She's terrified of you. She talks in her sleep. Did you know that? Cries out for someone to stop hurting her. Something flickered across Dante's face. Pain, maybe, or anger, masked as indifference. He looked away for a moment, jaw working. She should be terrified of the people she's been running with, the drugs she's been using, the men who've been using her, the situations she's put herself in. That's what should terrify her. And whose fault is that? People don't destroy themselves without reason. Excuse me? Iris took a breath, steadying herself. People don't run from safety into danger unless the safety feels like a prison. If Sofia ran from you, maybe you should ask yourself why. Maybe you should consider that your protection felt like suffocation. Dante's eyes went dark, cold rage flickering in their depths. For a moment, Iris thought he might actually hurt her. His men certainly thought so. They moved closer, ready to intervene or assist. But Dante simply turned away, signaling his men with a sharp gesture. Tell Sofia I'll be back. Tell her the world outside your little shelter isn't kind to people who burn the wrong bridges. Tell her that my patience has limits, and she's testing them. He slid into the SUV with fluid grace. The vehicles pulled away in synchronized precision, silent and ominous, leaving Iris standing in the rain. She stood there for a long moment, heart pounding, hands shaking from adrenaline. Then she turned and walked back inside. Inside the shelter, Sofia sat in the common room, her face drained of all color, hands gripping the armrests of her chair. He came. Dante came. Yes, he did. You sent him away. Sofia's voice was filled with disbelief and terror. I did. You don't have to see anyone you don't want to see. Sofia's eyes filled with tears. You shouldn't have done that. You don't understand what you've done. You don't want to see him. Want has nothing to do with it. Dante doesn't lose. He doesn't forgive. And he doesn't forget. People who cross him disappear. People who defy him suffer. Iris sat down beside her, speaking gently. Tell me about him. Help me understand. Sofia was silent for a long time, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow, drained of emotion. Dante raised me. Our parents died when I was 8. Car, accident, black ice, instant. He was 18, barely an adult himself. He could have put me in the system, could have walked away and built his own life. But he didn't. He took custody. He built an empire to keep me safe, to give me everything our parents would have wanted. He gave me the best education, security, luxury, opportunities, and all he asked was that I stay close, that I let him protect me, that I trust his judgment. But you left. I suffocated. He controlled everything, who I saw, where I went, what I studied, who I dated. He said it was for my safety. Maybe it was. Maybe he was right. But I couldn't breathe. Every decision was made for me. Every risk was eliminated. I felt like a doll in a glass case, perfect and safe and completely lifeless. Sofia's voice cracked. So I ran. I ran as far and as fast as I could, and I ran straight into people who hurt me worse than Dante ever did. I made terrible choices. I trusted the wrong people. I used drugs to feel something, anything, and I proved him right about everything. Iris reached for Sofia's hand, holding it gently. That's not your fault. What happened to you isn't your fault. Isn't it? Dante warned me. He told me the world was dangerous. He told me I was naive, that I didn't understand how cruel people could be, and he was right about all of it. Being right doesn't make his control okay. You had a right to your own life. And being kind doesn't make you equipped to handle men like my brother. You have no idea what he's capable of when someone threatens what's his. A week passed without incident. Sofia began attending group therapy sessions, sitting quietly and listening to other women's stories. She helped in the kitchen, finding comfort in routine tasks. She smiled occasionally, small, hesitant expressions that felt like victories. Iris watched her slowly return to herself, watched her remember who she was beneath the trauma. Then Viktor Rossi's men showed up. Viktor Rossi's men happened fast, coordinated and violent. 2 men forced their way past the front desk, shoving Margaret aside when she tried to stop them. They were demanding Sofia, yelling her name, asking which room was hers. Margaret hit the panic button that connected directly to the police. Iris stepped between the men and the residential hallway, arms spread wide. Get out, now. The police are on their way. The larger man, built like a linebacker, shoved her aside with casual violence. She hit the wall hard, shoulder flaring with pain that took her breath away. The second man, smaller but meaner, grabbed her arm and twisted it behind her back, grinding the bones together. Where is she? Where's the Morelli girl? Before Iris could answer, before she could scream, the front door exploded inward with the sound of splintering wood. Dante Morelli walked in like a storm made flesh, flanked by Luca and 2 other men who moved with military precision. His eyes found the man holding Iris, and his expression went absolutely cold, the kind of cold that precedes terrible violence. Let her go. His voice was quiet, controlled, more terrifying than shouting. The man released Iris immediately, stumbling backward, hands raised. Dante crossed the room in 3 strides. He didn't raise his voice, didn't reach for a weapon. He simply looked at Viktor's men with absolute certainty of violence, with the promise of pain beyond imagining. Tell Viktor that Sofia is under my protection. Anyone who touches her, or anyone sheltering her, answers to me, personally, in detail, for a very long time. Make sure he understands that. The men left without another word, practically running for the door. Dante turned to Iris. His eyes scanned her face, her shoulder, the way she was holding her arm. You're hurt. I'm fine. Her voice shook despite her best efforts. You're not fine. You're bleeding and your arm is injured. Iris touched her temple. Her fingers came away red, blood from a cut she hadn't even felt. Margaret rushed over with the first aid kit, but Dante took it from her hands with gentle firmness. He gestured toward a chair. Iris sat, too shaken to argue, adrenaline making her lightheaded. His touch was surprisingly gentle for someone capable of such violence. He cleaned the cut above her eyebrow with steady hands, applied butterfly stitches with practiced precision, and checked her pupils for concussion signs like he'd done this 1,000 times before. You should go to a hospital, get x-rays of that shoulder. I'm fine, really. You have a concussion, probably minor, but you shouldn't be alone tonight. I'll be okay. Dante's jaw tightened, muscle jumping. This is what idealism gets you. Broken bones and threats from men who don't play by your rules. This is what happens when you think kindness is armor. And what does your approach get you? A sister so desperate to escape she'd rather live on the streets than in your protection. The words hit harder than she'd intended. Dante's hands stilled on her shoulder. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, rougher. Where is she? Safe in the back. I need to see her. I need to know she's okay. She doesn't want to see you. She's my sister. Then act like it. Stop trying to own her and start trying to understand her. Dante stood abruptly, putting distance between them. He walked to the window, staring out at the street, shoulders tense with barely controlled emotion. You think I don't love her? I think you love the version of her that obeys you, the version that fits into your world. I think you have no idea what it takes to keep someone alive in my world. You have no concept of the threats, the violence, the constant vigilance required. And I think your world is the problem. I think the cage you built is the thing she's running from. He turned back to her, eyes hard and glittering. My world is reality. Your world is a fantasy funded by donations and staffed by martyrs who think kindness is enough. Your world falls apart the moment real violence walks through that door. Kindness is more than you've given her. I gave her everything. Everything our parents would have wanted for her. Except freedom, except trust, except the chance to make her own mistakes and learn from them. The silence stretched between them, heavy and charged. Dante's expression shifted, pain breaking through the armor he wore like a second skin. She almost died, he said quietly, his voice raw. 3 months ago. Overdose. Fentanyl-laced heroin. I found her in a motel room with a man who'd beaten her unconscious and left her to die. I carried her out myself. I stayed with her through detox, held her while she screamed and shook and begged for more drugs. And the moment she could walk, the moment she had the strength, she ran again. So forgive me if I don't trust your therapeutic approach. Forgive me if I think safety matters more than autonomy. Iris felt the weight of his grief, the depth of his fear. She ran because she's terrified of being controlled. She ran because living under your thumb felt worse than dying free. She ran because she's self-destructive, because trauma broke something in her. She ran because you don't see her as a person. You see her as something to protect, a responsibility, a possession, something that belongs to you. She's my sister. She's all I have left. Then treat her like an adult, like someone with agency and rights, and the ability to make decisions, even bad ones. Dante stepped closer, voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You want me to let her destroy herself in the name of autonomy? You want me to watch her die slowly because restraining her violates some principle? I want you to let her make mistakes without punishing her for being human. I want you to let her fall without catching her every time so she can learn to stand on her own. In my world, mistakes get you killed. In my world, falling means you don't get back up. Then maybe your world is exactly the thing she's running from. The conversation was interrupted by Sofia herself. She stood in the doorway, pale and trembling, eyes red from crying. She'd heard everything, probably had been listening for several minutes. Dante. He turned, and for just a moment Iris saw past all the control and violence, saw a brother who'd carried too much for too long, who'd built walls to keep out pain and trapped himself inside them. Sofia, thank God you're safe. You came. Her voice was small, uncertain. Of course I came. I'll always come for you. Sofia's eyes filled with tears. I can't go back to the house. I can't live in a cage anymore, Dante. I'd rather die. It's not a cage. It's safety. It's protection from people like Viktor who want to use you against me. It's the same thing. Safety that costs me everything isn't safety. It's just a prettier prison. Dante's hands clenched into fists at his sides. What do you want from me, Sofia? What do you need that I haven't given you? I want you to trust me. I want you to believe I can make my own choices. You overdosed. You nearly died. I made a mistake, a terrible, nearly fatal mistake, and I learned from it. Did you? Or will you run again the moment I turn my back? Will you find another way to hurt yourself just to prove you can? Sofia's face crumpled, tears spilling over. I don't know. I don't know how to be around you without feeling like I'm suffocating. I don't know how to be your sister without being your prisoner. The rawness in her voice broke something in the room. Dante looked away, jaw working, hand pressed against his face to hide emotion he didn't want them to see. Iris spoke gently into the silence. Sofia's been doing well here. Group therapy, routine, accountability without control. She's learning to trust herself again. Dante's eyes snapped to her. You think a week in a shelter fixes years of trauma? You think talking in circles with other broken people solves anything? No, but it's a start. It's a foundation to build on. And when your funding runs out, when Viktor or someone worse comes back with more men and better planning, what then? We'll handle it. We'll adapt. With what? Good intentions, strongly worded boundaries. With the same thing you use. Determination, the refusal to give up. Dante laughed bitterly, a sound without humor. Determination doesn't stop bullets. Hope doesn't prevent kidnapping. Love doesn't win against men who see violence as a business tool. Neither does locking her away. Neither does controlling every aspect of her life. Sofia stepped forward, her voice stronger now. Stop. Both of you. Stop talking about me like I'm not standing right here. Like I'm a problem to be solved instead of a person. They both fell silent, properly chastised. Sofia looked at her brother directly, holding his gaze. I need time, space. I need to figure out who I am without you deciding for me, without your security team following me everywhere, without your approval needed for every choice. And if you fall again, if you make another mistake that costs you your life, then I fall, then I die. But it'll be my choice, my mistake, my consequence. Dante closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet with unshed tears. I can't lose you. I can't survive losing you too. You already lost me. The moment you stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as something to protect, you lost me. I've been gone for years, Dante. You were just too busy building walls to notice. The words landed like physical blows. Dante turned away, hand pressed to his face, shoulders shaking with suppressed emotion. Iris watched the grief move through him, watched the realization that control had cost him the one thing he was trying to protect. That love expressed as imprisonment had driven away the person he loved most. After a long, painful moment, he spoke. His voice was rough, broken. What do you need? Tell me what you need and I'll give it to you. Sofia blinked, surprised. What? What do you need from me? Not what I think you need. What you actually need. I need you to let me stay here, to let me complete this program, to stop trying to fix me and just let me be broken for a while. Let me heal at my own pace. And if I do that, if I give you space, then maybe we can rebuild, slowly, as equals, on ground we choose together instead of ground you dictate. Dante looked at Iris, his expression unreadable. Can you keep her safe? Can you protect her from men like Viktor? We'll do everything we can, but I can't make promises I can't keep. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have. The world is dangerous. I can't eliminate risk, but I can offer her community, support, and the chance to build a life she chooses. He studied her face. For a long moment, the determination, the stubborn hope, the absolute refusal to lie or manipulate. Finally, he nodded slowly. I'll have Luca stationed outside, discreetly. Non-interference unless there's a direct threat to her life. That's my condition. Dante? Sofia started. That's my condition. You want space? Fine. You want autonomy? I'll give it to you. But I'm not leaving you completely unprotected. I'm not abandoning you to face threats alone. That's where I draw the line. Sofia hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay, I can live with that. Dante pulled an envelope from inside his coat and handed it to Iris. For the shelter. To cover her stay and compensate for damages and increase security risks. Iris opened it. Inside was more money than the shelter saw in 6 months of donations, enough to fund operations, repairs, and upgrades that had been delayed for years. We can't accept this. It's too much. Yes, you can. Consider it payment for proving me wrong about something I was certain of. I haven't proved anything yet. You made her smile. You gave her hope. That's more than I've managed in years. That's worth every dollar and more. The months that followed were fragile and difficult. Sofia attended therapy 3 times a week, working through trauma with Dr. Park. She worked in the shelter kitchen, finding purpose in feeding others. She began training as a peer counselor, learning to help other women who'd walked similar paths. Dante visited weekly, brief, formal meetings in the common room where other residents could see them. He never pushed, never demanded, just sat and listened while Sofia talked about her week, her progress, her setbacks. Iris watched the relationship slowly transform, watched Dante learn to ask instead of command, to listen instead of dictate, watched Sofia learn to trust instead of run, to share instead of hide. But Viktor Rossi didn't forget, and he didn't forgive. It happened on a Tuesday, afternoon in early spring. Sofia was walking back from a support group meeting 3 blocks away, sunlight warming her face. Luca was with her, walking a respectful distance behind, always watchful. But Viktor had planned carefully. 6 men, 2 vehicles, a coordinated extraction designed to happen in seconds. They grabbed Sofia off the street in broad daylight, throwing a bag over her head and dragging her into a van. Luca fought with desperate strength. He took down 2 men before a knife found his ribs, sliding between bones with practiced precision. He managed to hit the panic alert on his phone before collapsing on the sidewalk, blood pooling beneath him. Dante received the notification during a business meeting. He looked at his phone, saw the alert code, and left the room without a word. His face showed nothing, but everyone who saw him move knew that someone was about to die. Iris got the call from Margaret 10 minutes later. She ran the entire 3 miles to the hospital, where they'd taken Luca, arriving breathless and terrified. Dante was already there, standing over his bodyguard's bed, face carved from stone and ice. "He's stable," Dante said without looking at her. "Knife missed his lung by millimeters. He'll live." "Where's Sofia?" "Viktor has her. He sent a message. Wants territory. Wants me to back off 3 of his operations. Wants me to publicly acknowledge his authority in the eastern districts." "Will you do it?" Dante's laugh was dark and terrible. "If I do, it signals weakness. Every rival I have will see family as a vulnerability. They'll target her forever, use her as a tool against me whenever they want concessions. She'll never be safe. And if you don't, he'll hurt her, slowly, make me watch somehow. Maybe kill her. Maybe worse." Iris felt ice in her veins. There has to be another option. There's always another option. There isn't. Not in my world. Sometimes there are only bad choices and worse choices. Then change. Your world. Refuse to play by these rules. He finally looked at her. "You still believe that's possible? After everything you've seen?" "I believe you love your sister more than you love power. I believe that matters. Love isn't enough. Love doesn't stop bullets or negotiate with monsters. It's a start. It's a foundation for everything else." Dante was silent for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call, his voice cold and precise. "Gather everyone. Full mobilization. I want Viktor's locations, his routines, his security weaknesses, his habits. I want everything we have on him and everything we can get in the next 6 hours. Move." He hung up and turned to Iris. "Go back to the shelter. Make sure the other residents are safe." "No, this isn't your fight. This isn't your world. Sofia's my resident. That makes it my fight. That makes it my world too. You'll get killed. Viktor will use you as leverage if he knows you matter. Then I'll die doing something that matters, better than living safely and abandoning someone who needs help." Dante stepped closer, eyes searching hers with desperate intensity. "Why? Why do you care this much about people you barely know?" "Because everyone deserves someone who won't give up on them. Even people like Sofia, who've made terrible mistakes. Even people like you, who've done terrible things. Everyone deserves someone who sees their humanity." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor he'd worn for so many years. "You're insufferable, stubborn and reckless, and completely insufferable. So I've been told. And you make me want to believe things I stopped believing years ago. Things I thought died with my parents." Iris's breath caught in her throat. Dante looked away, jaw tight. "Stay here. Help Luca when he wakes up. If I don't come back, you're coming back. You have to. If I don't, make sure Sofia knows I chose her. Not power, not pride, not territory, her. Make sure she knows that in the end, she was worth more than everything I built." Before Iris could respond, before she could argue or promise or beg him to be careful, he was gone. The hours crawled past with agonizing slowness. Iris sat with Luca, who drifted in and out of consciousness, muttering apologies in Italian. Margaret called with updates from the shelter. Everyone was safe. Doors were locked. Police were aware. But there was no news about Sofia. No news about Dante. Then, at 3 a.m, Dante walked through the hospital doors. He was bleeding from a cut above his eye, his shirt torn and stained with blood that might or might not be his own. His knuckles were raw and split. But Sofia was with him, wrapped in his coat, crying it into his shoulder, alive and whole. Iris stood, relief flooding through her so intensely it made her dizzy. Dante met her eyes across the room. No words, just a nod of acknowledgement, of gratitude, of something deeper that neither of them was ready to name. In the days after, pieces of the story emerged like puzzle fragments. Dante had gone to Viktor personally, alone, unarmed, walking into Viktor's stronghold with nothing but the certainty of his own determination. He'd offered himself in exchange for Sofia, a trade Viktor had been too surprised to immediately refuse. That moment of hesitation had been enough. Dante's men had moved in with coordinated precision, extracting Sofia, while Dante fought his way out through Viktor's security. Viktor was dead now. The territory dispute was over, and Dante had made it clear, publicly, brutally, with a message written in blood and fear that Sofia was untouchable, that anyone who threatened her would face consequences beyond imagination. But the cost was visible in Dante's eyes. The weight of what he'd done, what he'd become again, sat heavy on his shoulders. Iris found him standing outside the shelter a week later, staring at nothing. He looked exhausted, older than his years. "How is she?" he asked without preamble. "Shaken, having nightmares, but safe. She wants to see you." "I don't know if I can face her, not after what I did to get her back." "Why not?" "Because I killed men. Multiple men. I became the monster she ran from. I proved her right about everything." Iris stepped beside him close enough to touch. "You became the brother who chose her over everything else. That's not a monster. That's love expressed through action." "You still believe that? After everything you've seen me do?" "I believe people are complicated. I believe you're capable of terrible things. And I believe you're capable of change, of growth, of becoming someone different than you were." Dante looked at her. Really looked, seeing past his own assumptions. "You saved her, you know. Not me. You gave her a place to land when she was falling, a reason to believe she was worth saving. I just cleaned up the mess. You gave her a reason to believe you. Could change. That family doesn't have to mean control. I don't know if I can change. This world I live in doesn't reward softness, doesn't reward trust. Maybe it's time to build a different world. Maybe that's the real challenge. He smiled faintly, exhaustion softening his features. Still an idealist after everything. Still stubborn after everything. I noticed. Hard to miss. The silence between them was comfortable, warm despite the cool air. I'm setting up a fund, Dante said quietly, for the shelter, and others like it. Sofia wants to be involved. She wants to help people like her, people who feel trapped and don't know how to escape safely. That's good. That's really good. I'm also stepping back from certain operations, delegating more, spending more time with family, trying to build something that doesn't require violence to maintain. That's even better. And I'd like to take you to dinner, somewhere without drug dealers or armed guards or people trying to kill each other. Just dinner. 2 people talking like normal humans. Iris's heart stuttered in her chest. Why? Because you terrify me and fascinate me and make me want to be better than I am, better than I thought I could be. That's a lot of pressure to put on one dinner. Can you handle it? She met his eyes, saw the vulnerability beneath the strength, the hope beneath the fear. I think so. I'll try. Good. Because I'm not easy. I'm complicated and damaged, and I come with more baggage than most people accumulate in a lifetime. Neither am I. I'm stubborn and idealistic, and I won't compromise on the things that matter to me. I noticed. It's one of the things that scares me about you. 3 months later, Sofia stood in front of a group of shelter residents, telling her story with quiet strength. The room was packed. 15 women in various stages of recovery, all watching her with recognition in their eyes. She talked about wealth and privilege, about how money couldn't protect you from yourself. She talked about addiction and the lies she told herself, about running from safety into danger because safety felt like suffocation. She talked about hitting bottom in that alley, about Iris finding her, about learning to trust herself again one small decision at a time. Her voice shook when she talked about Dante, about the complicated love between them that had nearly destroyed them both. But she didn't hide from it. She owned every piece of her story, the shameful parts and the triumphant ones. I thought freedom meant being alone, Sofia said, her voice stronger now. I thought independence meant rejecting everyone who cared about me, but I learned that real freedom is choosing who you let in. Real strength is accepting help when you need it. Real courage is admitting you can't do it alone. Dante sat in the back row, listening with complete attention, his eyes never leaving his sister's face. Iris sat beside him, their hands almost touching on the armrest between them, close enough to feel each other's warmth. When Sofia finished, the room erupted in applause. She smiled, genuinely, freely, without the shadow of fear that had haunted her for so long. Several women stood to hug her, to thank her for her honesty, to tell her their own stories in whispered exchanges. Dante's hand found Iris's, fingers intertwining with deliberate intention. She squeezed back, warmth spreading from the point of contact up her arm and into her chest. After months of careful distance, of professional boundaries maintained with difficulty, this simple touch felt like permission. "Thank you," he said softly, voice barely audible under the continuing applause and conversation. "For what?" "For not giving up on her when I had, for seeing possibilities I couldn't see, for being stubborn enough to believe things could change when I'd accepted they couldn't. I told you, everyone deserves someone who won't quit on them. Even cynical mafia bosses with violent pasts and blood on their hands. Especially them. They need it most. They're the ones who've forgotten it's possible." He smiled, a real smile this time, warm and unguarded and transformative. The expression changed his entire face, made him look years younger, reminded Iris of the 18-year-old boy who'd taken custody of his little sister and promised to protect her from a cruel world. Later, after the meeting ended and residents dispersed to evening activities, Dante and Sofia stood together in the hallway. Iris watched from a respectful distance, giving them privacy while remaining close enough to intervene if needed, old habits from months of protective vigilance. "You did well tonight," Dante said to his sister. "I'm proud of you." Sofia looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "I never thought I'd hear you say that. I thought I'd disappointed you beyond redemption." "You could never disappoint me beyond redemption. I was just too afraid to tell you that. Too afraid that if I showed any softness, any acceptance of your choices, you'd interpret it as permission to destroy yourself." "I don't need your permission, Dante. I never did. I just needed your trust." "I know that now. Took me long enough to figure it out." They embraced, a long hug that held years of pain and misunderstanding and love that had never actually disappeared despite everything. When they separated, both had tears on their faces. "I'm moving into my own place next week," Sofia said quietly. "The program helped me find a job, and I've saved enough for first and last month's rent. It's small, but it's mine." Iris saw Dante's jaw tighten, saw the instinctive urge to object, to offer to buy her somewhere better, to maintain some control, but he breathed through it, visibly working to respect her autonomy. "That's good. That's really good, Sofia. Do you need help moving?" "I'd like that. Just you, though. No security team, no bodyguards watching from cars." Another visible effort at acceptance. "Just me. I promise." After Sofia left to help clean up from the meeting, Dante turned to Iris. "That was harder than facing Viktor's men." "I know. Letting go always is. How do you do this every day? Watch people you care about make risky choices and just trust they'll be okay?" "I don't trust they'll be okay. I trust they have the right to try. There's a difference. And sometimes they're not okay. Sometimes they fail. Sometimes they come back broken again. But taking away their right to try breaks them in ways that can't be fixed." Dante was quiet for a moment, absorbing this. "I have so much to learn about being human instead of being in control." "You're learning. That's what matters." Outside, rain fell softly on the city, washing away old stains and bringing the promise of new growth. Inside, the shelter glowed with light and voices, and the stubborn, relentless hope that people could change, that broken things could be healed, that love could be stronger than fear. They walked together through the shelter, past the common room where residents watched television and played cards, past the kitchen where the evening meal was being prepared by volunteers, past the small library where someone was reading aloud to a group of children. This place that had seemed so fragile to Dante when he first arrived now felt solid, real, important. "Walk with me?" Dante asked when they reached the front door. "Where?" "Anywhere. Nowhere. I just want to talk without an agenda for once." They walked through the neighborhood as dusk settled over the city. Streetlights flickered on. Cars passed with headlights cutting through the growing darkness. Dante walked close to Iris, protective without being possessive, present without crowding her. "I want to tell you something," he said after several blocks of comfortable silence. "Something I haven't told anyone. You don't have to. I want to. When my parents died, I made a promise. I promised their memory, that I'd keep Sofia safe no matter what, that I'd build something strong enough that nothing could hurt her. And I kept that promise. I built an empire, made myself dangerous enough that people feared crossing me, created wealth and power and influence. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that safety isn't the same as happiness, that protection isn't the same as love, that keeping someone alive isn't the same as helping them live." Iris listened without interrupting, giving him space to work through thoughts he'd clearly been carrying for a long time. "You showed me that," Dante continued. you in this place. You showed me that real strength is letting people be vulnerable. That real power is giving people choices. That real love is trusting someone enough to let them fall and believing they'll get back up. Those are hard lessons, especially for someone who's spent years learning the opposite. I'm a slow learner, but I'm trying. They stopped at a small park sitting on a bench that overlooked the city lights. The rain had stopped, leaving everything clean and fresh. "Can I ask you something?" Iris said. "Anything." "What do you want? Not for Sofia, not for your business, for yourself. What do you actually want?" Dante was quiet for a long moment, considering the question seriously. "I want to wake up without immediately calculating threats. I want to have conversations that don't require layers of strategy. I want to build something that doesn't require violence to maintain. I want..." He hesitated, then continued. "I want to deserve someone like you. Someone good and honest and uncompromising." Iris's breath caught. "Dante, I know I'm not there yet. I know I have miles to go before I'm remotely worthy, but I want to try. If you'll let me. If you'll be patient with me while I figure out how to be someone different than who I've been." She turned to face him fully, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes, the genuine desire to change. "I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to be honest, to keep trying, to not give up when it gets hard. I can do that. I'm good at not giving up. Then we'll figure it out, together, one day at a time." He kissed her then, gentle and tentative, asking permission with every movement. She kissed him back, accepting him as he was while believing in who he could become. When they separated, both were smiling. "This is terrifying," Dante admitted. "Good. The important things usually are." Iris had been right all along. Idealism wasn't weakness. It was the most dangerous weapon of all, because it refused to accept that broken things couldn't be healed, that lost people couldn't be found, that men built from violence couldn't learn gentleness, that women shattered by trauma couldn't rebuild themselves stronger. Dante Morelli had built an empire on fear and control, but a shelter worker with a stubborn heart and unshakable faith in human potential had shown him something stronger, something that lasted longer than power or money or respect earned through violence. Love without conditions, safety without cages, family built on choice, not control, trust earned through consistency, not demanded through authority. Sofia was finally free to make mistakes, free to learn, free to become whoever she chose to be. And Dante, for the first time in his adult life, felt like he could breathe without constantly scanning for threats. The world outside was still dangerous, still unforgiving, still full of people who saw others as tools or obstacles. But inside these walls, something new was growing. Something precious and fragile and worth protecting. Something worth believing in. And as Iris watched Sofia embrace a resident who'd shared her survival story, she knew this complicated work of helping people rebuild was exactly where she belonged. Dante leaned close. "I underestimated you. Most people do. I won't make that mistake again." His thumb traced her knuckles. "What now?" "We keep going, one day at a time." "That simple? That hard?" He nodded. "I can work with that." The rain continued. Inside, the shelter hummed with life, imperfect, resilient, hopeful. Iris Chen still believed in second chances. Dante Morelli was ready to take his, and Sofia was learning that freedom wasn't the absence of love, that safety didn't require imprisonment, that family could be chosen, built on respect and trust, the kind of love that said, "I see you, I trust you, I choose you," every single day, not because I have to, but because I want to, because you're worth choosing, and that made all the difference.